Hello and welcome to the Salt City Gamescast. This is the Mailbag. We haven't done it for a few years. My name is Nick Naylor. Sitting across from me is Jared Ellum.
It's time to answer your burning questions.
It's been a while. I think it's been more than a year, maybe 2 or 3 before this, since we don't do this often.
It's not really our thing. We've been kicking around the idea of maybe doing like an email section for our show at some point. So if that's something you would like to see, let us know. But
Sure.
Yeah, we got some good questions. We are going to answer them all.
I'm debating. I think I'm just going to go down. I'm going to go down the list. I'll try to give people shout outs and say who's sent in the question. There's a wide range. There's gaming, there's non-gaming. I think we're going to cover just about everything right at the top of the list. Pneumonia over on Discord said, what's your favorite Pokemon? Which is obviously geared towards me. Jared, what's your favorite? I mean, did you immediately have one? Are you like or no?
No, not immediately. But I have a short list, I'll say. I mean, there's so many goddamn Pokemon that it's kind of hard to, and I've been playing them my entire life virtually, so it's kind of hard to just say, right out of the gate,
Sure,
a number one. But I'll give you 3. I really like Steelix. It's a rock snake. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's Gen 2 evolution of Onyx. I just remember getting like the Japanese card of Steelix before Gold and Silver came out in America, and I really like that one. I'm a big fan of Blastoise because it's a fucking turtle with 2 water cannons that are in its shell. Really like that. And then the dark horse would be Standler, which is the stupid fucking deer. It's just a deer.
I think I've seen that.
Yeah, and I really like Standler. But there are so many. I'll tell you what my least favorite Pokemon is Kefki, which is just a key, a ring of keys. That one's pretty fucking stupid. They do a really good job of narrowing down Pokemon and creating compelling ones, but there are a handful of very stupid ones as well.
What's the blue duck's name?
Cramorant.
Obviously. I mean, this is like a no-brainer.
I can't believe that I answered what's the blue duck's name, because it's not a fucking duck. We've went over it. We don't have to rehash.
It's very clearly he's the best one. And he just looks like he's in a situation he doesn't want to be there. Like when you look at him, he's got this side eye and you're just like, oh, he doesn't know what he's got himself into. Mm-hmm. He's not happy about this one bit.
We have to petition Nintendo and Game Freak to create an evolution for Cramorant.
Is he never had one?
Well, he's a fairly new Pokemon, like within like the last 2 or 3 games. So, I mean, the way that it works, at some point, I think he'll probably get an evolution.
For sure. So, that makes sense. A new employee at my work has some sort of a Pokemon card. I need to send you a picture of it.
Okay.
I don't know if you're going to know, but
I will know.
It appears to have like a foil around the edge, so I don't know if it's like a big deal.
A lot of them have that.
Anyway, yeah. I was looking at it and I was like, that's a random thing. And anyway,
I'll take like on his desk or something.
I think he's a super nerd. I don't think he knows I have a podcast yet.
Okay. You guys haven't talked about video games?
No, he's not in my field of communication. I talk to him very rarely.
So. Okay.
But anyway.
Go to his desk and be like, let me take a picture of that Pokemon card, dog.
Yeah, it'd be fine. Sandstorm sent in, basically, are you a Harry Potter guy?
No.
You're not at all? Have you watched the movies?
Yeah, I've watched them. Yeah.
Basically, he was asking what your favorite Harry Potter is. So with you, do you even have a favorite Harry Potter?
Yeah. Goblet of Fire.
Goblet of Fire.
That's the one with the wizard tournament, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
With the vampire dude that he went on to play all the vampires.
Yeah, I think that's the best movie in my opinion. And I think that I read the books when I was young. Not all of them. I think I stopped at the Goblet of Fire, if I remember correctly, but that was my favorite at the time.
So I did not read the books initially, right? They came out and I was in high school and I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then I met my wife. I'm trying to literally find the books. I forget one name, but I met my wife and she's like, you should really read these. And we went and saw the movie Goblet of Fire before I'd read any of the books. And
Mm.
she was like trying to explain it to me, and it was not going well. And I was like very confused. But then I proceeded to read, the last book wasn't out yet, but I read all the books in 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
It was a good 30 days. It was a real good. I was literally reading the book and then watching the movie, and reading the book, watching the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great. But for me, Half-Blood Prince, it's not even close. That's like book 5. And because I think Half-Blood Prince was the one where they were finally old enough where it was not quite a children's novel.
Mm-hmm.
Like they had gotten to an age where you're like, hey, this is it's a pretty big turn. Goblet of Fire is a pretty big turn as far as like the maturity level, but Half Blood Prince, you really started to see some things come together. I kind of hate talking about Harry Potter because it's just awkward with that author's politics, but it's a weird thing to navigate. And we've talked about that in the past before. I still like those books, right?
Yeah, not for me because I don't give a fuck about any of it
Sure.
and think it's kind of hokey and cheesy. But you like what you like, and I understand the cultural significance of Harry Potter, and so it's a good question. But yeah, never really been my thing. I went to the Harry Potter world, not the theme parks, but
Mhm.
it's in Watford, England, and it's like they basically house a lot of the sets and things like that they used in the films.
Was it cool?
It was cool, but the whole time I was just like outside smoking and just being like,
It's
when are we
great.
fucking leaving?
Sure.
Because it's not my thing. But I was with a bunch of Harry Potter nerds and they seemed to enjoy it quite a bit.
Okay. Another question that came in from Science Storm was kind of a tricky one. It's basically like, if you're going to tell someone, if they're going to invest in gaming, and I feel like this is a weird line to walk, but it's like the budget's not a factor, but we're not going like crazy, right? Like you're just saying like, hey, if you're just going to tell someone you want to get into gaming, how do you steer them in the right course on what they should do today?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of already have somewhat of an answer, and like, surprise, surprise, it's kind of just, it's PC related. Is if you want to give someone the widest option as possible, you would say then you should just get a PC, and you're going to be able to play almost everything because of what Microsoft is doing. So obviously Xbox is just gone because all of Xbox first party goes to the PC,
Mm-hmm.
and Sony eventually goes to the PC. So that's going to give you the biggest grab. You're not going to get the Nintendo stuff. The only thing I thought about this a little bit, the only thing I would say is like, if like you've got a pretty decent budget, I would say if the sky's the limit, not only do you go PC, but you get yourself set up in a way that you can be on your couch with your PC on your TV, or at a chair, and
Mm-hmm.
really easily have, I don't know if it's like an arm with a keyboard, like just the whole setup, right? That you
Yeah.
could easily sit on your couch and play PC games on the big TV
Mm-hmm.
or at the computer. Because I think that's an issue for some people where it's like, well, I don't want to go sit at a desk and play games.
Yeah.
And it's maybe understandable. So if you could alleviate that in an easy way, maybe. I don't know. What do you think?
So I would agree with you. PC would probably be my recommendation, but it would really depend on how
They want to
deeply
do.
somebody wants to get involved with games. Like the biggest thing for me in arguing against like any of the consoles right now is the backwards compatibility of the consoles. While Microsoft has done a really good job of that in recent years, I think that there isn't that barrier for games on PC. So like, unless you're playing super old games where you might have to jump through some hoops to get them to run on a modern rig. um you can play virtually anything from many years ago and you don't really have to worry about it. I would say though, there is a large portion of people that do not want to have to jump through any hoops, and they want to just have a essentially plug and play experience, which PC can be somewhat complicated to get things running right.
Sure.
And that kind of stuff. It's a little bit more labor intensive. So if it's somebody that's just like super casual and wants to play some games, I probably would honestly, and I've done this recently, I probably recommend getting an Xbox and getting Game Pass, because I think that That's a relatively cheap entry point, although it has gone up recently. But generally speaking, I think that's going to be the most bang for your buck, especially if you're not concerned with physical media. And obviously, you just plug it into your TV and you're off to the races.
Yeah, and if you're not a gaming lunatic, that's gonna give you plenty.
Yeah,
Like Game Pass, and not just Game Pass has a lot of good stuff.
for
Like
sure.
we kind of go back and forth on the whole offering,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, if you just look at what it gives you, there's a lot of shit there. And with the Blizzard stuff and everything Microsoft has at this point, you're just like, you're really gonna have a lot of options. So I think that's a
But the real answer is get a fucking PC, you weirdos. Like,
yeah. Well,
it's not that hard.
also, like, if you're saying I'm going to invest in gaming and I'm also going to be a freak about gaming,
Hmm.
once you open up the idea of like emulation and going backwards, it's not even a discussion. Like,
Yeah.
it's not even a discussion.
It's
Like,
just a much more versatile tool as well. I mean, a computer can just be a gaming machine, but there's just so much more that you can do with a computer. I mean, you can make a fucking living off a computer. You can't really do that with a console in the
mhm,
same kind of way. So, PC is probably the answer.
for sure. Uh, so Scooby Diesel asked us, I guess the best way to phrase it is what's missing from Astrobot. Like they do all these theme levels, they kind of bring in a lot of their properties. So if you're going to stand back and say, you know what, I wish they would have had more of, what would you like to see them do a spin on?
That's a tough question. I don't know if there was really anything that I would have liked to see them do.
It's Final Fantasy. Like
I mean, I
it's
guess I think that that's like low hanging fruit though. Uh, I think like from a gameplay perspective, there is like a lot
uh,
of
what about a stealth mission with Metal Gear? Do
no,
that.
no, no.
Why not?
I hate stealth. I do love Metal Gear
But
though.
it's
I
like
do love fucking Metal Gear. Give me
w-
a fucking cardboard
with
box
the
and
noise and stuff. Like
yeah,
you could,
yeah, yeah,
even
yeah.
if it was very short, it would be pretty funny.
A little aside about that, the noise, the alert noise that
Sure.
is
Yeah.
so famous, that has proliferated in a way that I would have never expected into like social media, and a lot of people use it in their content, and like I think a large portion of people that use it nowadays don't even know where it comes from or
Nope.
what it is. You'll see it all the time, but maybe my answer would probably be for like the future of Astrobot. They do have this a little bit in the newest game where you kind of assume the role of like a famous Sony character and you play within the confines of the game world that it's pulling from, but maybe a little bit more dynamic variation from like gameplay elements from like individual worlds, right?
Mhm.
Especially because the end of the game is so drastically different than anything that you see throughout the run of the game. So maybe a little bit of diversity in terms of like it's not just a platformer, but we're doing different things like pulling on different kinds of games genres. Could be a cool thing if they could implement it well.
For sure, for sure. He also asked, could Microsoft do something like this? And I'm straight up like, the tone and just what I don't see that they're at a place where they could do this. Like,
Microsoft probably couldn't pull it off simply for the fact that Astrobot exists, and anything that kind of tried the formula of
it's like,
Astrobot,
what is this? Like
like it would.
PlayStation All Stars and like Smash, like right? Like it
Yeah,
didn't.
exactly. That's a great comparison. I think that it would just come off as like a cheap knockoff, and I think people would probably be pretty critical of it. That's not to say that Microsoft doesn't have like beloved IPs that they could draw from for something.
Yeah.
I just like off the top of my head, I don't know what that would be. And again, if you were gonna do an Astrobot like game, I think that people would be like, well,
What is this?
what is
Yeah.
this? And it's just Astrobot.
Also,
And also Microsoft just does not have the history that Sony does.
because they'll have stuff like Diablo, and they're you're pulling from the history of the studio you bought a year ago. Like,
Right.
what are we doing here?
Right. They just don't have the history that Sony or Nintendo has. And
Mhm.
so I think it would be really pretty difficult to make something like that work for Microsoft.
The other question he asked, which is non gaming, Would you rather go without hot water or AC in the summer?
uh Probably hot water in
Y-
the summer specifically.
Well,
If
no,
it's
no, you go without. I think it's sorry. Let me. It just says hot water in the winter or AC in the summer. I think I would go with I would be giving up hot water because AC. I can't sleep
Mhm.
if the temperature isn't right in the summer. I literally can't sleep, and if I just have to take cold showers, I mean that'll just harden me up, right? Like it's
Uh,
just a
we went
yeah.
over this. That's a bunch of nonsense. Uh, Also, to like solidify that point, I just saw like some like pretty well researched doctor talk about how there's like literally no evidence that like cold plunges actually
Do
do anything
anything.
for
Yeah.
you. And so you just got all these like alpha chads being like, I'm getting in the cold plunge, bro. And it's just like not doing anything for them. I mean, I'm not going to say that. I'm not saying that's
Sure.
like definitively the truth, but I did see that recently. I thought that was very funny. Uh, I hate the wintertime, and there's nothing more that I enjoy than being warm. If I had to pick between living in an environment that has seasons or living in an environment that is just hot all the time, if I had my way 100%, I would live in a place that does not have seasons and is just like warm all the time.
Mm,
So
mm,
I don't like being hot
yeah.
without AC, obviously. But you can get a fucking fan.
Sure.
Get some
Yeah.
fucking
It's not
fans
enough, but yes.
and and deal with it. Whereas like getting in a cold shower is like maybe the least attractive option. So I'm gonna go with warm
Dang.
water in the
Dang.
winter.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. You said pneumonia. One of the things I don't know how to pronounce that.
Namunai? I don't know how. Let us
Pneumonia.
know.
Anyway, you excited for Dragon Age?
Not overly excited for Dragon Age Veilguard. You know, I think that I'm excited for the potential of BioWare to get back on track.
Right.
And I think that you can't criticize BioWare for what happened with Anthem. I got it right. I didn't say marathon, it's Anthem. This is actually time. This now's my
This
time
is the
to
appropriate time
be
to talk about Anthem. Yeah, it's great.
correct. But I think that Anthem was like kind of forced down their throat. And you know, it just didn't make sense. Like having a live service game made by BioWare, although it was a cool premise and those flying mechanics are fucking dope. I don't care what you say. It just didn't fit for the studio. So for them to come back and hopefully get back to what people love about that studio, which is solid writing, solid character progression, and some really consequential decision making that you have to make throughout the run of the game. I think that Dragon Age is a cool world, and I think the lore is pretty neat. So and the characters are pretty decent as well. Specifically returning characters. So
That first one was I fucking loved it.
yeah, that
Like
first one is like an aberration though, because you know, now when we're looking at the totality of the series, that was just that one. And I think it's the best one by a country mile. But I don't think Veilguard is going to be that. I think Veilguard is going to be much more action oriented and you know, it'll definitely live or die on how good the combat is in the game, and then also if they can kind of you know, bring back some of that industry standard you know, writing and storytelling.
yeah, I'm not excited for it. I should be because I fucking love Dragon Age 1,
Mhm.
but I haven't finished a Dragon Age since.
Right.
Played them and I haven't finished them. So
Yeah.
I if they can get back to some sort of like that story in Dragon Age 1, like that narrative and generally it was all really good. Besides the blackmailing of a girl of a lady to have sex with you, it was pretty pretty fucking good.
Yeah. Yeah, the combat in particular in that game, the strategic elements in that game, that it's really fucking good. And
Mm.
uh you could argue that maybe Larian doesn't hit as hard without the original Dragon Age, you know, the Divinity series and then Baldur's Gate in particular. There's a lot. I mean, Larian took the idea and ran with it. But
Expanded it quite a bit.
100%.
Yeah.
But you know, you could maybe make that jump and say, if the original Dragon Age didn't exist, maybe Larian wouldn't be where they're at right now. So
Yeah. Minus in the Discord said, I don't think I'm gonna have an answer to this. What's your favorite physical piece of gaming media? I feel like this is
tailor made for me.
exactly like I have just gone away from physical period. So I just don't have that. I have I have the original PC cardboard boxes with like 6 CDs of Final Fantasy 7 and a Final Fantasy 8.
Hmm.
I don't believe I can do anything with them. I don't believe they actually function in a way that I can just put this into my
Yeah,
computer.
well,
Oh,
unless you have
I don't have a disk drive either. I don't think if I had a disk drive, they would still work. But that shit was pretty cool because they did open up and you were like, they had pretty cool art
Mhm.
with all those things. And that was a neat thing back then. But these days, I'm just not physical. I'm far more likely to get a physical thing and ask you if you want it than to keep
Yeah.
it for myself.
Thanks, by the way. Appreciate that.
It's like,
Yeah, for me, like I've got a ton of stuff that is very sentimental to me, and it might not be like the greatest thing ever, but the thing that immediately jumps to my mind, and this is a difficult one because I got a pretty robust collection of physical media
sure.
at this point in time in my life, but the original Kessen for PlayStation 2. I have a sealed copy of that.
Hmm.
And it's a game that I played a outrageously large amount of when the PlayStation 2 came out. I believe it was a launch title or very soon after the PlayStation 2 came out, that I got it and played it. And I sold my original copy of it foolishly. And as an adult, I went back and purchased a sealed copy of it. So it's not worth anything. Like and like you could argue that it's not the best game in the world, but for me in particular, I love that fucking game. And so that one is pretty high on my list of like, oh, it's my favorite piece of physical media that I have. I also have some like super sentimental to me from my childhood Sega Genesis games. Complete in box. I got one of my favorite Sega Genesis games, Sunset Riders, which, to be fair, is an inferior. There's a Super Nintendo and a Sega Genesis, and the Super Nintendo version of Sunset Riders is far better. There's more characters. You only get Billy the Kid and fucking Camacho in the Sega Genesis version, which sucks quite a bit, but it's still a fantastic side-scrolling shooter from Konami, and so that's probably one that
Sure.
I go back to, and it's like it even has like, you remember when manuals had like a notes section for all
Yep.
the notes that you're going to take?
I love manuals.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I also grew up in the time like we had a PC in my house at a pretty early age, and I don't know how aware you are, but the PC products used to be fantastic.
Yeah, for sure. I know.
Like the boxes, the manuals
Yeah.
were extra.
For sure.
The Fallout books that came with those games, you were just like you could really look through it for quite some time and be like, this is an amazing experience. And there's definitely something that I feel like we just like the collector's edition kind of have that spirit, but not quite. No one's doing the manual type deals that we would get, and I really missed that part. That was a great thing.
They do them. There are a handful of publishers that will still do it if you buy a physical version. That have cool little manuals and things like that, but it's not as common. I used to love, that was like my favorite thing when I got a new game back in the day, was the first thing I would do is like read the manual front to back, and
Sure.
that's just gone, and it's sad that it's gone. But yeah, that's probably my answer, even though it's not a super exciting one.
It's super lame that just the product of the physicals that we get now, they're just lame. Like you
True.
open it up, there's just nothing. There's like the plastic has somehow managed to get thinner. Like and
Yeah.
all it is just like this is just like nothing.
Right. I would take what we have now over the fucking jewel cases of like the PlayStation, Dreamcast, Sega Saturn era. Those things are fucking brittle. They're like grenades, and that is only slightly under, as far as annoying me, of like cardboard boxes. Like whenever a modern game releases, like I've got the re-release of Trails of Cold Steel, and those come in big. They're worth a fuckload of money,
Yeah.
and they come in big cardboard boxes, and it's like, why, man? Like, I gotta fucking just figure out the best way to keep this like as safe as
Yeah.
possible, and it's just a giant fucking
Mm.
pain in the ass.
Yeah,
No cardboard
for sure.
for games media. No.
Right. Pepper Shoes is actually Dan, who's been on this show a couple times. He asked, "What are you playing on your Steam Deck right now?" Which I know might not apply to you, but I just want to lead him in a direction. The game is called Noita. It's Noita, and I'm sorry because you're going to be mad that I sent you down this path. It's a motherfucker of a roguelike, and it is a beast. And maybe I will talk about it on this podcast at some point in time, but it is a motherfucker.
For me, UFO 50 is what I'm playing on the Steam Deck right
That's a
now.
good one, yeah.
It's a game that we haven't talked about. We have talked about it a lot, just like through text and things like that, trying to figure out how we're going to cover it on the show. Probably stay tuned for that at some point in time.
We're going to figure it out. It's just hard to...
It's a very difficult one. If you don't know anything about it, it is literally 50 games in one package. And we're not talking about like 10 to 15-minute games. They're like full ass fucking retro games with like a self-contained story developed by Derek Yu, who's most famous for developing Spelunky, both of the Spelunkies.
We just don't know how to cover it.
Yeah.
I have played 2 hours of Brimstone.
Yeah.
It's a full-on RPG.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know, like, am I supposed to stop playing it and go to the others? I from what I've read, this is one of the better games in the package, and I have enjoyed it so far. But I'm like, how the fuck do we try to talk about this package? I don't know.
It's a fucking awesome thing that it's for unbelievable that exists, and the care and dedication that went into creating something like this is fucking mind-blowing. And I think the thing that's most noteworthy about it is the fact that the games are all retro in their execution, but then also have like very serious modern
for sure,
modern things that you would find in modern games spread throughout them. So it's a very cool fucking thing. But yeah, we've been struggling to figure out how we're going to talk about it, but I've really enjoyed it. And it's not on any other platform besides PC and Steam Deck, obviously, right now. So that's what I'm playing on my Steam Deck.
This is still from Pepper Shoes, but have you touched VR in a year?
No.
There's
just not, it's just not what I want to be doing as far as video games go. I think it's a very cool technology that has finally been realized in like a very tangible way. Like you can have a good time with it.
Yeah.
And there are good games that are coming out for it. The last game that I played in VR was Half-Life Alyx, and I think that game is fucking incredible.
That's what I was really gonna say. Like, if my wife and daughter go out of town at some point,
yeah,
then I would love to borrow that and play through Half-Life Alyx from you. And that's really the only thing that I really want to play.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no way I'm going to buy it.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to sit here and wait. And eventually, within 10 years, I'll have like a 3-day window that I can like do it, right?
Yeah. It's just not something that I'm really super high on. But maybe that'll change in the future. I mean, obviously, I don't think that it's going anywhere, even though Sony in particular has pretty much abandoned VR2, PSVR2, and they're not putting out games for it. So like if you really want to get into VR, it seems like the logical thing to do is pick up a headset from one of the other manufacturers and play PC VR games. But there are people that are fucking crazy into it. And it's wild to me that people can like just play VR games all the time, but more power to you if it's your thing. It's just not the way I want to play video games typically.
For sure. Sandstorm asked, you got to pick one beer for the rest of your life.
Okay.
What are you drinking?
That's really tough. I would say Newcastle Brown Ale, if you could get the original from Newcastle. I think that's my favorite beer of all time, probably. The unfortunate thing is that like a lot of these imported beers, that have found like really, really solid fan bases. One of like the major, brewers in the United States got contracts to make the beer. And they say that it's the same thing with like a lot of the Japanese beers I like Asahi Dry or Sapporo or Kirin Ichiban. They are all produced in the United States or Canada now.
Yeah,
So if you're going to buy them in the states, you're getting like a knockoff, and they are not the same beers. Like they're just not. So it's really disappointing. And Newcastle is in that boat. You can get Newcastle now. It's produced in California, and I want it from Newcastle.
sure.
But yeah, Newcastle is fucking fantastic beer. That's probably my favorite.
I this question doesn't really work with what I like about drinking beer. I drink beer easily 4 or 5 days a week. Like I'll have a beer, and my whole thing is I thoroughly like I'm an IPA guy. I like a lot of hazy IPAs. I have Oktoberfest stuff today. Like I like the chasing of new beers coming out, and it really is a non-starter. If you come to me, even though I really like IPAs, and say, "Hey, you just need to pick one for the rest of your life," I'm probably just going to say I'm going to go make cocktails. Period.
Mhm.
There isn't a beer out there that I'm just like, well, I want to just regularly have that beer forever. That's just it's not really what I'm doing. I like the variety. I want to keep moving from thing to thing to thing.
Mhm.
Like Illuminated out in Illinois right now. I love all the stuff I can find from them, but
Mhm.
I can't. I can only find a few things. So,
Mhm.
but that changes every 6 to 12 months, and that's kind of the beauty of just following the craft, right? Is that they're
Mhm.
all doing different, unique things. What is TF releasing? What's everyone releasing? Like once that goes away, it's kind of just like I don't know that I'm still in it. Like
Yeah.
I don't know that the same beer forever isn't better than old fashioned. So if I'm picking, I would just be drinking an old fashioned because old fashioned is different. Old fashioned, I'll say, yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
That I got to pick cocktail. It's probably a whiskey sour or an old fashioned for the rest of my life.
Coors Banquet.
For sure. Bro. Uh, that's kind of a little tough. Do you have a favorite whiskey? Yeah, yes. He was like,
Yeah.
do you have a straight up favorite? And this is tough because like I don't know how you factor cost in because like some things can be really great, but the cost is ridiculous. So you're trying
Mhm.
to like navigate well, what's a reasonable whiskey that you could just say, this is my favorite whiskey that's within the realm.
I
Under
mean,
$100, right? Or something like that.
Springbank 10 is my favorite whiskey, probably.
It's a good whiskey. I have it. Yeah.
It's not the most easily attainable, but I think most of the time you're going to find it, $100 and under, depending on where you're at. That's probably my favorite. I think that it's because I'm so deep into whiskey that like it's kind of hard in the same way that maybe beer is difficult for you to pinpoint. I just like specific flavor profiles. So,
Yeah.
we've talked a lot about Campbelltown, and I think just broadly, I don't think that I've ever had a bad Campbelltown scotch in my
Sure.
life. They're all good. So, that's my favorite region. Bourbon, I'll give you a bourbon as well. My favorite bourbon is probably Old Forester 1920,
Okay.
and that one's super easily attainable, and it gets the job done. Or it's a toss up between 1920 and Woodford Reserve Double Oaked. That's also very attainable and a delicious product.
Yeah. I mean, with what I have liked lately, all I want is Campbelltown, and
Mhm.
I'm still I think I've got 4 bottles in the collection. I still want a few more.
Mhm.
So right now, really, I just want anything from Campbelltown. I've got that spring bake that you mentioned. Got a couple Kilkerrans. I've got a couple Glen Scotias, and every single one of them I've been really happy with. Outside of that, like I do really like the Glenlivet makes an Nadura, and this is the Highland Scotch. It's not anything particularly, I want to say interesting, but it is a high proof, and I think it's a really good one. As far as if you're looking for one of the best Highland Scotches, I think the Nadura is a pretty good one, and that's like $70.
Mhm.
And I bought that multiple times.
I
It's a cast
gave
strength one.
yeah, I went to a whiskey bar with this uninitiated dude that I was hanging out with in Hawaii when I was there, and he was like, I don't know what to get, like you're the
Yeah,
guy, and I was like Nadura, like,
yeah,
and it's a solid product. It's fantastic, and he really enjoyed it. So I think it's an easy one, especially if you're like adverse to like peat
for
that
sure.
sometimes you'll see in Scotch. You're not getting any of that there. It's like 100% quintessential Speyside sweetness, and it's nice. And but
It's
then you also get some of that heat from the proof. So
it's maybe one of the best examples of just like that space side. Like, here's a really good one of those.
yeah.
Whether you like one of those or not, like this is just a pretty solid one.
Hmm.
Um, but again, like I still don't make this list. That's just not I don't think either of us are just go-to whiskey guys. Where it's just like drink my Crown every night,
I
my
have too
my,
many
my
whiskeys.
Jack Single Barrel, and it's just like this is not what I'm even trying to do here.
Yeah.
In the same scenario where I don't want to play one game or
Right.
watch one movie,
Mhm.
this is not what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
have way too many whiskeys to just like drink one all of the time. That's kind of the beauty of having like a pretty robust collection is I'm pulling a new bottle every single time I sit down to have whiskey. It's usually going to be something that I haven't drank in a while that I've been like, oh, I have this and it's good, let me drink this tonight. So
yeah. Angel, who we played quite a few games with online, you can move to any state. You gotta be in the U.S. You can go anywhere. Where are you moving?
uh Vegas.
Fuck, what?
Yeah, I
You're moving
mean,
to Vegas?
yeah, I used to live there when I was younger. I have very fond memories of when I lived there. I was a kid when I lived there, and I didn't live there for very long. I lived there for probably 2 years.
Mm,
But some of my fondest childhood memories are in Vegas. Going back to the heat, I'm a dry heat guy. I like dry heat. Um, the summer sucks in Vegas. It absolutely does. But the wintertime is fantastic in Vegas for the most part. And I'm not saying like I'll move to the strip. That's what I'm saying.
you said Vegas. It's
But
literally a
there
boulevard.
but
You're
there
gonna walk out.
is
There's gonna be the
there
MGM
are
on it.
very nice neighborhoods in like the
Sure.
suburbs. Henderson in particular is where I used to live when I lived there, and really like that. Summerlin as well is very bougie and very nice. So if I had to move somewhere else, I would move to Vegas.
That's crazy. I mean, I'm not. I mean, I'm judging you, but I'm not judging you because it's obviously, it's your choice.
Yeah,
That's fucking crazy. And I'm a gambling addict. Like, there's no. I love
that doesn't
gambling.
factor into
I
my decision. I would
that's
I ideally would like to live in a place where I can play golf year round.
well then that place.
Yeah.
I would I kind of have a qualifier and I have two places. But if I was still married with a family,
Hmm.
Oregon. I love Oregon. I've spent a lot of time up there. I love the trees. I love the forests. I think the climate is I like it quite a bit. It doesn't get quite as hot as Utah. It does get a little colder, but they don't actually get the snow.
Hmm.
I've had a lot of fun in Oregon. I like it a lot. If I was straight up single, like city, basically a city, but
Hmm.
like Boston, something like that.
Okay.
I could do city living, never with like dogs and a family, but like my personality would be like that, whining and dining,
Hmm.
like eating out most nights in the city.
Yeah.
I'd be all you need a lot of money, but like that would I would be all about that sort of shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and like I really enjoyed Boston when I was there. That'd probably be something like that.
If it's just strictly city, I've been spending a lot of time in Illinois. I like the suburbs of Illinois. I think that
Yeah.
I haven't spent. We'll see if this opinion changes when the winter rolls, because I know they pretty brutal winters, and I've never been there in the wintertime. Gonna be soon though.
Yeah,
But
it
I
gets real
think the
cold.
suburbs of Chicago, it's like a lovely little mix. It's very similar to Utah in a lot of ways,
Mhm.
not from like a temperature or like climate, but just the vibe. And you kind of get a mix of like wilderness. There's lots of country, but then there's also everything that you could possibly need. So, but if it was strictly sitting, Chicago is a fucking incredible city.
Yeah,
It gets a bad rap because there's like a lot of negativity and like crime and bad things, but it's a fucking major metropolitan city, one of the biggest in the country. And so you're going to have bad aspects to it. But if you're talking about like unlimited budget, can get a fucking dope ass condo or
for
apartment,
sure.
you are never going to be bored in Chicago. It is a fucking hell of a city.
Yeah, I feel like Boston or Chicago, and Boston gets winners as well. Like
Yeah.
they pretty much interchangeable as far as what I know, because I've only visited each one once, so I
Hmm.
don't really know jack shit about them.
Yeah.
You could probably swap either of them out, and that'd be fine. But like all that, I really like. I love the obviously like where I talk about cocktails and all that stuff. Like that
Hmm.
city, the city experience brings all of that shit in,
Yeah.
and you can find a really good variety of it. Fun outside of gaming. What do you? I feel like we already kind of talked about these things, and I could probably already answer yours for you. Is
Hmm.
you golf?
Yeah.
But like, what do you do when you're not gaming?
Golf.
Yeah,
I
right.
play
Like
I play
it's
golf. I mean, at least when it's warm in Utah. Obviously in the wintertime, I don't really have any wintertime hobbies. I don't really, ski or snowboard. I
yeah,
snowboarded when I was younger for a bit, and I just don't like being cold. And
sure,
so, and snow is not my friend. I don't like it. So I really only like hobbies outside of video games in the wintertime. I like building models, like little robots, Japanese
hmm,
robots, Gundams. The Gunpla is what it's called. I do that in the wintertime. Watch football a lot. I'm a big sports guy, so I like watching sports, football, soccer. uh that's pretty much it. Those are
sure.
my two big ones. I like basketball too, but to a lesser degree. um so big sports guy.
College basketball is a lot of fun. Like
Yeah,
March Madness is a lot of fun if you
yeah,
get
for
into it.
sure.
Like that's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I wish the Utes didn't suck at
Yeah, for
basketball.
sure.
That'd be cool. Maybe they'll be better now that they're in the Big 12 and that's a more competitive basketball conference. So maybe
Yeah,
that'll help them bring in good recruits. But yeah, mostly football. Football and soccer are my two big ones. So I watch a lot of sports. What else? I'm trying to think of anything else. But yeah, I mean, the answer is golf. Like
probably
in the
right.
warm uh, months of in Utah, I play golf every weekend pretty consistently. And I would never say that it rival my love for video games is always going to be the number
Sure,
one thing,
same.
but golf is not necessarily a close second. But I absolutely love everything about golf. I think it's the most humbling fucking thing that you can do. If you get a big ego or head, like golf is
Go
there to
golf.
knock
It'll
you fucking
bring you
down.
back down to speed.
And
Right.
it's just like pure mechanics and the cerebral element of golf of like figuring out how to incrementally get better with your swing
Right.
is just addicting. And you can play really poorly all round long, and then you hit that one great shot and it's just like, I'm back. I
Yeah.
fucking hate this game. And
Hey,
then you hit that one good one and it's like, I'm fucking back. I love it. I'm addicted to it.
I'm glad I golfed quite a bit in the years back. I got into it, and I'm glad I got good enough to where like I can go out and golf.
Hmm.
Like I can go out and golf, and generally I'm not going to be embarrassed or completely embarrassed. I might have a bad hit and stuff like that, but
Hmm.
give or take, like these days I can go out and play, and that's a good time. I like that quite a bit. It takes a lot of time,
Yeah.
and that's the bigger problem with golf
Yeah.
is that when you start to really look at your just the time I have available, I'm just like, oh, golf's a tough one. But the other thing I've done, I've snow skied my whole life. I've been in Utah and I've skied an enormous amount. I am we'll say, I don't want, I don't even know how to say. I know how to ski. I can go ski most of the terrain on a mountain. Um, so that's obviously a huge one, and that's gone up and down. Like before we had kids, my wife and I would get passes, and we'd go a lot
Hmm.
each year. And then we didn't go very much because I had like a toddler. And but now my daughter's skiing, and last year she did great, and we got season passes for this year. And I have a feeling this year I'm going to probably ski, 10 to 15 times, and I'm going to be very excited about it. But it's a thing that I just have in my back pocket because I've done so much of,
Mhm.
and we're probably going to have an enormous amount of fun with our kids teaching them this sport, and my daughter is extremely into it. So skiing is a huge one. The only other thing, like I read a decent amount. It goes up and down, and depending on like what I'm feeling, like I will read a pretty wide variety.
Mhm.
A lot of fantasy, a lot of sci-fi stuff, but like then I'll get distracted, and I've been reading books that have just been basically in the 1920s, give or take, for like 6 months because I'm just like I'm super into that whole speakeasy time frame.
Mhm.
I would maybe want to go back and live around then. That shit's really cool. But so I've been reading a lot of that stuff too. We don't really ever talk about books on this podcast, but I do lately. I've been cranking through quite a few, and that's entertaining. It's kind of fun. It's the sky's the limit. You can go find anything you want. Kind of
Mhm.
with gaming, like what do you want? These days you pretty much can find an offering. Someone's making probably something for you,
Mhm.
and with books, obviously, it's the same shit.
I read too, but largely my reading is dedicated to like comic books and manga.
Yeah,
I don't really anime, like kind of manga and anime go hand in hand. For whatever reason, I mean, I do love anime and there are some really great ones, but it's got to be like a fucking banger. I can't just like that was okay, like it was an all right anime. It's got to be like universally acclaimed and people really love it and then I'll get into it. But I read more manga than I do
sure.
and comic books more than I do like books. And if I'm going to read a book, it's usually going to be nonfiction, about something that has taken place in the real world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Angel asked, "What's your favorite regional food?" I don't know that I have a. I'm not I'm a fish guy, and I'm a raw fish guy, and
Mm.
what's my region? Japan, like
Yeah, I
like
mean, yeah, I
like
mean, sushi is Japanese, so that would probably be it.
like
Yeah,
his examples are like New York pizza, Philly cheese, and that's just not like those are great. Like
yeah,
I like those things,
yeah.
but the my craving across the board, my favorite type of food is raw fish, period.
Mhm.
Like that is the thing that I always want.
For me, this one's good for me because I've been doing a lot of traveling in the last year.
Sure.
So regional foods that I think absolutely are fantastic, is like Chicago style beef sandwich. That is a absolutely incredible sandwich. I think
What
that
is that
it's
all about?
so it's like shaved like roast beef, and they put jardinera on it, which is like pickled peppers, which I'm a
Mm,
big pickle guy, so I love that. And the thing that I think really sets it apart is like a French dip. You're gonna like have the jus, and you're gonna dip it every bite that you're gonna have, which I fuck with a French dip, big fan of that. But the Chicago beef sandwich is they'll cook the meat in like a pot of like basically jus, and then before they'll dress it all up, put the peppers on it, melt the cheese on it, and then they dip it in the sauce. So it is a
mm,
messy fucking
yeah.
sandwich,
Uh,
but it is fantastic. And jardinera in particular, like I don't fuck with the sweet jardinera. It's got to be the fucking hot jardinera, but like hot pickles and beef with like, and
it's
it's a pretty like beefy bread. So
yeah.
like it's gets because they dip it completely. They'll take tongs and dip the whole sandwich in the sauce before they
Nice.
serve it to you. But the bread holds up. It doesn't get soggy,
Mm,
but it is kind of a mess. And then the other one that I would highlight, San Diego favorite, carne asada fries. I fuck with that shit heavy. It is maybe the
yeah.
worst thing that you could possibly put in your body.
It's just not. Yeah.
But we've got like some pretty solid Mexican restaurants, and I think most states do. But
Sure.
Utah, we've got a pretty substantial Mexican population, so there's lots of good Mexican food that you can find here. But if you go to San Diego and you have fucking carne asada fries in San Diego, oh
Mm,
boy,
yeah.
you'll feel terrible after you eat it. But there's just something
Hey,
so fucking appealing about it to me. I love it.
I'll have to try them if I can ever have the chance. I just have a hard time. Like, it's not that I don't like any of those things. It's just I don't crave them. Like all that stuff, like Mexican food, right? Like people will be like, "Oh, man, we're going for we're going for tacos," and I'm so excited. It's like I'm medium excited.
Mhm,
I mean, go order some random pork belly tacos. It's fine.
mhm.
And I just don't get the only thing that gets me is that fish. Just like, give me the fish. Can I cut it? I want to cut it. I want to fucking slice that fucking fish up. Like, yeah, that's it's just the rare stuff. The maybe the last question, maybe the best one. Namonai asked, and actually, this is paired up with something Silent Storm asked. It was just like, what are you excited about? Basically, like, do we still get excited for just a game, or like do they never fully like do they never fulfill our expectations, or is there like an excitement level that you're like, I'm so excited for this game to come out? Do you have anything that's like either announced or not announced that would just make you be like, yo, I'm so fucking pumped for this shit?
Yeah, of course. I don't
Oh,
know, uh, unannounced, I mean, the one that comes to mind that I am, like, absolutely fucking just, like, salivating waiting for is Monster Hunter. Absolutely.
that's
Uh,
announced, but
well, that's what I'm saying,
yeah.
like, if Monster Hunter for sure is the one that I am, like, absolutely looking forward to. I know that I'm gonna invest hundreds of hours into it like I have the last 2 games, and
Also, if that's day and date PC, which I think it is,
it is.
that's a big deal.
It's a big
And
deal.
I feel like that's a we're gonna rally a lot of people to try to play that with us.
100%. And I mean, it being like essentially more or less the spiritual successor to Monster Hunter World, which it's hard to argue that that isn't the best Monster Hunter to date. I am absolutely just like counting the days until that thing comes out. And it comes out early next year, which is great. We got a date
Yep.
for it. I believe
Yep.
it's in January or February.
It's a good date.
And so very much looking forward to that. So that's going to be the one that's like absolutely I am super excited for. And then I'll give you one that's not announced and probably never will be announced. But there is a series called Coldcept. Which is a very like not super well known series, but the last one that came out was called Coldcept Revolt,
Mhm.
and what it is essentially a deck builder where there's like a bunch of cards, and then mix that with like board game elements, not dissimilar to like Monopoly or something like that. And it is absolutely incredible. There was one that came out on the Xbox 360. It's a long running series in Japan, but doesn't get a lot of love here in the United States. And the last one was on the 3DS. And I played that thing until I couldn't play it anymore. I built so many different decks in it. And there's just something super compelling about the combination of like a traditional like TCG
For sure.
card mechanics with interspersed with this board game mechanic where you're moving like a token around a board every turn. It is fantastic. And if they ever make another one of those, I will absolutely shit my pants. So, not likely, but
Yeah.
that would be one that I would absolutely freak the fuck out about.
As far as games that are unannounced, it is an easy one for me. It would be the next near. Uh, the Near Automata came out 7 years ago. I've never talked about it on this podcast in like a full release version, and that game was had budget constraints,
Mhm.
and it did extraordinarily well, and has had legs in books and art. Like it clearly has legs, and I just can't possibly believe that the next iteration of that series hasn't been greenlit. And if it hasn't, that just blows my mind. But if Yoko Taro's not working on the next iteration of that series, I just don't. That's crazy to me. So if he does, I would be very excited. That Nier Automata does things with story, with things with mechanics that are unique today, 7 years later, that other games quite really haven't duplicated when you have fully played the game. And I would be very like, you announce that, and I don't need to see anything. You just need to say, hey, the next year's coming, and I'm going to be like, oh, fucking on board. How much do I need to pay for the collector's edition? Like straight across the board, I will buy every version of that game. just to see what he is. If it's a full on, he's done a bunch of like smaller things, and I
Mhm.
just don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, that's the thing that like Yoko Taro is such an interesting, like eccentric character that like there is a legitimate chance that
It never
he maybe
happens.
just doesn't want to do it,
That's
right?
true.
Like
Like
maybe he's just like, no, I would rather focus on other things. And I mean, surely Square Enix has floated the idea of, I mean, they did Replicant, obviously,
I just don't
after.
buy it, right? Like I don't buy that that it's over.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like surely it's been floated
Yeah,
internally, and I feel like you have to have Yoko Taro attached to it for it to like
for sure.
really be anything like the last two were. And maybe he's just like, I mean, I've done everything that I want to do with the series. Like, I don't want to do anymore.
Maybe I don't know.
I rather make fucking gotcha games
I,
on fucking mobile.
I mean, there's some pretty unique quotes from him. That's just like literally, I will make anything you want me if you pay me. Like he's a very
Yeah,
funny guy.
yeah.
And but yeah, I think
But do you
he's
really
I
buy that?
well no because I think he's blown up a lot. At the time that he made some of those comments,
Right.
he's gotten a lot bigger.
Yeah, I
But
don't buy that. I don't buy that he's like I think that he is that eccentric of a guy that it would be like I'm just gonna do what I want to fucking do and like I'm more concerned about making things that matter to me than like going back to
I,
something that I have no desire to go back to.
and the thing about the near games is they aren't sequels. Like they I guess technically are, but they really aren't. You don't need to play them in order. There's no really significant connecting storylines.
Mhm.
The connections are so minor. They are standalone as far as I'm concerned. So I just want to know, even if it's not called near, like if he has a significant budget, what is it that he makes?
Mhm.
He hasn't made anything
Right.
for 7 years that
Yeah.
has any sort of budget. So I'd be like, well, like I just want you to make it. Just like someone's like, I want to know what the next Kojima game is. I want to know what the next Yoko Taro mainstream thing is. It's been 7 years.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
I'll give you two more just quick ones. Dragon Quest 12.
Sure,
Dragon Quest
fucking
12, day and date,
yeah, yeah,
100%.
yeah,
Sign me up. Put it in my fucking veins.
yeah. After what they did with 11, you're just like, yeah, show me anything.
That thing, in theory, should be coming out sooner rather than later. It's been in development for a long fucking
I
time.
feel like maybe 2025, maybe.
Hopefully. I mean, it's been a while since the announcement. What, 3 years
Yeah,
probably since the announcement?
yeah.
And you got to think that they'd been working on it long before that as well. So there's that one. I know that there was a lot of talk about the pandemic hurting the development cycle and that kind of losing steam internally. And then Persona 6, obviously.
Sure.
Persona 6, day and date, fucking sign me up for that. That is one of Persona 5 in particular is one of my favorite games of all time. And the Persona series
Yeah.
broadly is one of my favorite series of all time. So I'm very excited to see what's going to happen. That I am less confident it's going to come out in 2025, but also
I'm not
it's
necessarily
sooner.
confident it's 2026.
It's sooner rather than
You
later.
think so?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at the release date of Persona 5 in the West was 2017. So that's
Probably.
right in line. I bet you I would hope that we get an announcement this coming year, 2025, and then maybe 2026
Nice.
we get Persona 6. So
Nice. All
and
right.
then maybe randomly next year. Fucking
Who
if we
knows?
get Persona 6, fucking Dragon Quest 12, Monster Hunter fucking Wilds in
That's
1 year and GTA 6, holy fuck, dude.
that's a problem.
Yeah.
And that's no with no Naughty Dog. And Naughty Dog, I'm pretty confident Naughty Dog releases next year. I would be very surprised if we don't see Naughty Dog release something next year.
Yeah, that would make sense, but that you got a big question mark is the failing of that multiplayer thing
Sure.
internally. So what does that do to their
maybe that
team?
was a bigger problem than we
I
realized.
think honestly, if we're talking about Sony things, I think that it's more likely that we see something out of Santa Monica. I think it's been known that
What?
Barlog has been working on something internally at Santa Monica for a long time. He was not involved. I mean, he was like essentially, overseeing the development of Ragnarok, but internally people
Yeah.
knew that he was working on something else during the release period
I
of
mean,
Ragnarok.
I don't know what their team sizes are between Naughty Dog and Santa Monica.
Yeah.
But that would mean Santa Monica releases 2 games on the PS5 and Naughty Dog has 0.
That's true, but
Like,
I guess I don't want to say that it's more likely, but I will say that I think that we will get an announcement for whatever Barlog has been working on,
I like
which is a
that
new
guy.
IP. We
That
know
guy
that.
that guy's cool. He seems like a good one.
Yes.
All right. Well, hey, we managed to do a 1-hour mailbag. So
Sweet.
there you go, motherfuckers. Hey, thanks for listening. You should go and probably join the Discord, do all that shit. Look in the show notes. Look in the profile on YouTube. That's gonna do it. Take it easy, guys.